Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to another Macbeth tutorial. So, today we will start with Act 3, Scene 1 of Macbeth. Now, this Scene 1 being slightly long, I have divided the explanation into two parts, Part 1 and Part 2. So, today we start with Part 1 of Act 3, Scene 1. In this video, we are going to study Act 3, Scene 1, which is one of the most significant scenes in the play. Until now, Macbeth has achieved what he wanted. He has become the King of Scotland, but instead of enjoying his success, he finds himself trapped by fear and insecurity. In this scene, we'll see how Macbeth's ambition pushes him even further down the path of violence. So let's begin. Background, a bit of the background. Before we begin the scene, let's quickly revise what has happened so far. King Duncan has been murdered and Macbeth has become the new king of Scotland. After Duncan's murder, his two sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, fled the country because they feared that they too might be killed. Malcolm escaped to England while Donalbain went to Ireland. Their sudden departure made many people suspect that they were responsible for their father's murder. This suspicion helped Macbeth secure the throne. However, Macbeth still isn't at peace. Remember, the witches had also professed that Banquo's descendants would one day become kings. This prophecy now becomes the biggest source of Macbeth's fear. The characters in the scene. Now let's look at the important characters who appear in this scene. The central character is, of course, Macbeth, the newly crowned King of Scotland. Next is Banquo, Macbeth's close friend and fellow general. Banquo has begun to suspect that Macbeth may have gained throne through evil means. We also meet Flens, Banquo's young son. Although he doesn't have many lines in this scene, he is very important because the witch's prophecy is connected to him and his future descendants. Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth also appears briefly in this scene. Finally, we meet the three murderers whom Macbeth secretly hires to carry out his plan, along with a few attendants and servants who are present in the royal court. Scene overview. Before we study the scene in detail, let's first understand what happens in this scene. The scene opens with Banquo thinking about the witch's prophecies. At the same time, Macbeth is becoming increasingly worried about Banquo. Although he is now king, he feels that his throne is not secure. To remove this threat, Macbeth secretly hires murderers to kill Banquo. But Banquo is not the only target. Macbeth also orders them to kill Flins because the prophecy says that Banquo's descendants will become kings. So, this scene marks another turning point in the play as Macbeth once again chooses violence to protect his position. Banquo's thoughts. The scene begins with Banquo speaking to himself. He says, "Thou hast it now, King Cawdor claims all." With these words, Banquo is thinking about the witches' prophecies. He notices that everything they predicted about Macbeth has come true. Macbeth is now the Thane of Cawdor, Thane of Glamis, and the King of Scotland. However, Banquo also remembers another prophecy. The witches had said that although Banquo would never be the king, his descendants would one day rule Scotland. At this point, Banquo quietly wonders whether Macbeth may have achieved the throne through dishonest or evil means. Notice that Banquo doesn't accuse Macbeth openly, he simply begins to suspect him. This shows that Banquo is thoughtful, cautious, and fair in his judgment. Macbeth fears Banquo. The scene now shifts from Banquo's thoughts to Macbeth's fears. Macbeth admits our fears in Banquo stick deep. In other words, Macbeth says that his greatest fear is Banquo. But why is Macbeth so afraid of his own friend? Unlike Macbeth, Banquo is wise, brave, and honorable. More importantly, Macbeth knows that Banquo is intelligent enough to understand what may have happened after Duncan's murder. Macbeth realizes that Banquo is not someone who can be easily deceived. Although Macbeth has become king, he does not feel safe. His fear has become stronger than his happiness. So, boys and girls, with this, we come to an end of part 1, and I'll see you in part 2 of Act 3, Scene 1. Until then, have an amazing day ahead. Bye bye.